I want to like hug him and hold his hand and like kiss him a lot. Kind of stuff. God, shut up. Okay, please leave me to die.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Muddled Dice. This is our first one after like 2 weeks. It was the holidays and vacation and all that. But get back into it.
Sorry.
So I'm Dan, as always, and we got Celeste here again.
Hey.
Cole.
Hello.
Abby.
Hi, guys.
And Sean.
Hello.
So let's jump right into it. Abby, new Switch. You know most about it.
Yeah, so basically there is a new version of the Switch coming out. For lack of better words, it is Switch Lite, and the whole concept of it is that it's going to be purely console. The nunchucks do not separate from the main screen of it, which I think is really nice and a nice kind of transition into the kind of handheld world for the Switch. But I think for most people that own a Switch already, their like primary use of it, unless they're like taking it to a party or something like they show in like the advertisements, is as a portable console to begin with. So I wonder how many people are going to actually buy it.
Well, I think, so for like my thing, I wouldn't want the Switch for anything other than a handheld. Like,
Yeah.
If I want a big TV console, I have a PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. So it is $100 cheaper than the original. So I'm actually thinking about picking one up. And I think it is actually, they are actually calling it the Switch Lite.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's interesting because I know a ton of people that have that same opinion of like they play it, they like the Switch because they can play it handheld.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I love that I could like take it on an airplane if I want.
Yeah.
But I keep mine docked most of the time, and I'm just thinking like, oh man, if I wanted to play like 1-2 Switch or Smash, which is the one game I play more than anything else, that's a pain in the ass to try and just like, oh, I'm playing Smash handheld instead of like loading up a bunch of friends with GameCube controllers.
Well, that's the other thing. They're saying that not all games will work with it.
Yeah.
Because there are some games that require the big screen. And the
Yeah.
dock, so
I wonder though if this is their like step in the direction of trying to have a cohesive product that is both their like console and handheld, because it's been a while since they released like a DS of any kind.
Yeah.
So I feel like this might be like a hey, like this is what we're pushing as our handheld. Maybe even because it's so successful as a handheld product.
Well,
And they're just like, well, most people use them nunchucks on anyway, so.
Well, Tyke and I were talking about this, and I had read that they weren't planning to like have this replace the 3DS because the 3DS has been like the DS line has been humongously successful for them. But the way I saw it, and I was telling Tyke about this, was I think this is they're getting ready to kind of lean into having all of their products going forward be like console quality handhelds. Because I mean, why wouldn't you want that? If you have the technology to actually have your handheld console be the like you can play the new Legend of Zelda on it, why wouldn't you? And the 3DS still isn't like at that caliber. Like it does 3D really well, but it's still like you got to tone that stuff down pretty hard to get it working on the 3DS hardware versus just toss out a Switch that doesn't dock and call it the same thing.
Yeah.
yeah. Because the hardware inside is exactly the same, isn't it?
Yeah,
Just
it's
the screen is,
1 to
like,
1.
A tiny bit smaller.
Yep.
Yeah.
How much smaller?
I think they said a 1/4 inch.
Oh,
I don't know.
that's not much. Okay.
Well,
I don't know like which way. Though.
So you're just
Yeah.
supposed to like tote it around naked?
It's basically just a handheld.
'Cause that's
And
pretty big as far as I remember.
Yeah, well, but it's a little bit smaller, and I've found because I've been looking at I've had pros and looking at their different screen size. Like you wouldn't really necessarily think like an inch is that much like lower, but considering the fact that it kind of affects the general like all around size, it can be a bit smaller. I wonder. I just lost my train of thought.
I also wonder.
Yeah, like
we all wonder.
we all
You're not
wonder
alone.
as a whole.
I wonder what you were gonna say.
Yeah. Like in terms of this being their kind of newer, we want everything on the same platform and we want everything like the same quality because the nunchucks are like not removable.
The Joy-Cons?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Basically the same
The
concept.
nunchuck is my favorite
You know
video
what-
game hardware for the Wii.
Switch now
Exactly.
comes with Wii hardware.
Yeah. The Joy-Cons. I wonder how much of the the soft or the hardware that they build into like the screen of the Switch has migrated out to those Joy-Cons because they're not removable.
Yeah,
to
because
kind of
they
make
definitely don't need the like IR sensors and the
Yeah.
like the gyroscopes in each one and that kind of stuff. They save a lot of space in the actual handheld or in the actual Joy-Con, you'd imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So do you know if the actual dimensions of the machine are the same?
They're smaller by a little bit. I think.
Okay.
I
so
think
was
it's
gonna
like
say, why
by
would
like
they
an
reduce the
inch.
screen size
Like.
Okay. Maybe to make it more portable.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah.
if they're trying to throw that it's light, like they would have to size down in some way.
Yeah,
like,
the review that Tyke and I were reading was saying that the light version is now like it's a more sturdy piece of hardware because they've kind
Okay.
of compacted everything down into a smaller case.
okay.
So it feels a lot more durable than the current Switch does, which with the removable Joy-Cons, you're kind of like, well, it might
Yeah.
bust.
Well, and then it doesn't need radios in it.
Yeah.
For the wireless communication for the controllers, you can just like extend the circuit board into the controllers.
yeah.
Yeah.
And this is not meant to replace the DS.
Not
Apparently
according
not.
to them,
No.
But it kind of
They
feels
need to get that
like it,
flexible
right?
folding screen action happening.
Right. Yeah.
Like it's been on its way for so long.
Yeah.
And like the full 3D effect.
Oh,
Yeah.
I do not miss the 3D effect.
Oh yeah,
No, it
it,
was
I
all-
never,
it
I
was-
never use the 3D
I don't
of the
either.
3DS.
I turn it all the way down.
it was really cool when the 3DS came out. You're like, whoa, 3D without glasses,
Yeah.
and then you're like,
Yeah.
all right, I feel awful.
This is
Like
terrible.
time to turn it on.
I feel sick. Yeah.
I'd rather just play Pokemon and not have to like be like.
Mm-hmm.
Bleh. But I would turn the 3D on for like the battles because I'm like, oh wow, it's spinning around. It looks really cool, and then be like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when it comes to menu selections, you just turn it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't need floating 3D menus.
Yeah, the graphics are just like in space.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm like, for me, it's like I would only use it as a portable, and it's $100 cheaper. So I might actually get one
Yeah.
now because I wasn't gonna pay $300 for it before.
Yeah.
But
I
if
feel
you
like
already
if
have
you,
one, like,
yeah,
meh.
if you already have a Switch of some kind, I don't think like somebody is gonna buy it because like the portability that it's offering, I already have in my actual Switch. But if you're someone who was kind of like hesitant to buy the Switch or
Yeah.
like doesn't have one already, I think it's like a great alternative.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So, okay. So, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! Apparently posted some sort of, posted something on Twitter
Okay.
with the main character of Yu-Gi-Oh! Which I don't know his name.
Yugi.
Oh, it's Yugi? Okay,
His
well, that's
name is
easy.
Yugi.
You
easy.
fucking
I haven't-
casual.
Okay, I haven't seen that show like since I was in high school.
Yeah.
So okay, but posted a picture of him with like his like in one hand he had a card that said go, and another hand he had a card that said vote. But then there were other bubbles that were like criticizing the Japanese government. It said like we're this close to dystopia and like totalitarianism.
The Japanese government?
Yeah, which is so like I don't
That's
follow
interesting.
Japanese politics.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
So like I don't know what the cause of that comment would be, but a lot of people were very upset for like this traditionally non-political cartoon and character, and he's using it as a prop for his politics, even though he created the character.
Yeah.
So I'm not. Go on, Abby.
Sorry, yeah, no. It's for anyone that's obviously listening and not watching, I was making like a face like while we were talking about it. So like, while I agree, like it's a very kind of fine line of talking about politics with like some type of cartoon, like for any American person that might have been like exposed to Yu-Gi-Oh as a child, it was probably on like 4Kids, and they majorly like PG-ified that. So like as an example, like in like 4Kids TV, you were going to the Shadow Realm. The actual Japanese version of that, you were fucking dying. Like if you lost a like a card duel, you were dead as shit.
Really?
Yeah. Like,
Holy shit, I never knew that.
4Kids
Jesus.
TV, like super like kidified Yu-Gi-Oh as a whole. And I think like for people that at least watched the original version of Yu-Gi-Oh, or even had experience from Yu-Gi-Oh from the Yu-Gi-Oh Abridged series, which I know is really popular, like that's not a kids thing.
Yeah.
And most of the people that would have been exposed to it as kids are grown-ups now. So I don't really think it's necessarily in poor taste to like have your political like opinions in that space.
Oh, because the original fans are adults now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the people that are going to like recognize that character are going to be people that are capable of voting.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily like. Obviously, there's kind of this fine line, and I didn't see the original tweet, so maybe I'm wrong. But like from what you've explained to me, that like sense of, hey, I'm gonna have this like meme of a character. It's like saying go vote. Like, most of the people that were originally exposed to that character are gonna be adults that are capable of voting, and like B, like that would be definitely seen as like a meme of some kind, and memes don't really have age limits. Like there are like memes that like are of like not necessarily are like adult content in the sense that they're inappropriate, but in the sense that like they're not things kids would necessarily be exposed to, that like apply to kids and like vice versa. So,
Erin, do you have something you want to say?
Yeah.
nope.
Nope. Okay.
So was it?
She does what she doesn't want to be on the mic.
Gotcha.
Was it mostly Japanese people upset?
Because
I don't
That's
know
a good
enough to be
question.
upset,
That's a
and I'm
good
thinking the
question.
only people who do are them and their neighbors.
I would.
Yes.
Am I big mouth? Am I big mouthing?
No.
No,
Oh,
you're
okay.
fine. No.
I would.
I feel like you're the only one that's like read up on this topic. I don't know shit about Yu-Gi-Oh.
I would like hope that the only people that are upset are Japanese people, but there is this kind of internet culture that like if someone does something that is perceived as wrong, there are a lot of people without knowing the facts that are very quick to like jump on without knowing the full extent of the issue. And it could be very possible that the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh like there is a very progressive person that is running for office and he's being an asshole.
Yeah.
It's also very possible that, there are a lot of countries that aren't as progressive in some places. I'm not going to say as the U.S. because that's not a good like standard of judgment. So like that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But it could be very possible that like what he's saying is true, and he is trying to truly like reach out to the general populace and encourage them to vote based on the fact that they are familiar with this media product.
Well, I think the issue wasn't with the go vote message. I think it was with the like Japan's getting close to like totalitarianism message.
Yeah.
And like, but it's hard to judge without knowing what the exact issue is.
Yeah.
Like if it's like a human rights issue, I don't have a hard time being like, no, that's political. You shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
But if it's like tariffs or like taxes, like,
Yeah.
that's politics.
Yeah.
But, like certain human rights issues are not, in my opinion.
Are we sure it was a discussion about Japan getting close to that and not China? Because like Japan, I'm like kind of what? But with China, I'm definitely on like okay, sure, I can see like the thought process there. But
Well, and I think it very much goes back to the idea that unfortunately
criticizing the Japanese government, according to Kotaku.
that's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
I think it very much goes back to this whole concept that, like, as Americans, we see something from a very Americanized point of view. So in this case specifically, without knowing all the details, we can't necessarily, like, have an opinion of it without knowing, like, the full details. But in my head, if the situation was actually, and to be completely honest, I have been very out of the news as I've gotten older because it's just not, like... not a huge part of my life, but
well,
if
and especially so like we're all Americans here,
Yeah.
like, especially Japanese politics. It doesn't affect our lives as much as American politics, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's like it's not on my radar.
Exactly.
I mean,
but it's very easy for the internet, and again, not
Yeah.
saying that this is the case, but it's very easy for the internet to pick out one really popular post that says this is wrong and run with it. And in this case, I don't really know the full like.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I feel like Kotaku is very regularly a kind of trustable site of information.
Yeah.
But in this case, like if it was truly what it stands to be, and it was a message to encourage people to go out and vote in not a malicious way, then like I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think there are times when that has even been used in American history with like American media.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't like think of anything, but like I definitely know that it's been a thing.
I mean, definitely Superman and Batman have yes.
Well, not.
We have a new guest, Erin.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoa, okay, Erin's destroying everything.
Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about this, but speaking of like using American media
Yeah.
to get people to vote to talk about political issues. I mean, if you think about the Rock the Vote
Yeah.
and using popular music characters, using TV characters that say, go vote, go do this.
Yeah.
Media and art is inherently political.
Yeah.
So using the political characters, especially if you're own that,
Yeah.
to say something political isn't that's what art is.
Yeah. It's to give a message, and so if that's
Yeah.
the message that you choose to convey, like that's your choice, especially as the owner of the media.
Nevinson agrees. And I feel no,
you're-
absolutely.
yeah.
And it's naive to think that the people that create these characters aren't like,
Have
you know,
political
human
views.
beings
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
live in a country of origin and don't have, you know, opinions about stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they're every property that you're a fan of has someone that created it and they have an opinion of their own too.
And I
So
feel too, it comes a lot from some of the a lot of this like Gamergate kind of crap, or no, well, Comicsgate and Gamergate. I guess.
yeah.
Not very creative. With like kind of a hard right stance of like games and comics should not be political at all. Whenever they try to take the littlest progressive like message, and it's like no, they're works of art. They can absolutely be political. They're not just for fun. I mean, me and Abby have talked about like, do games actually have to be fun, or can they be just an experience that can be distressing but has an important message?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it comes from that. Like people are thinking these are just for kids and they should not have a political message, which is wrong. And I think even for kids media is wrong.
Yeah.
Well, and especially going back to what I said, like the kids that ingested these media as kids are
Yeah.
grown up. Like that doesn't mean that you stop ingesting the media. It just means that you're older. And so why shouldn't the media reflect like the opinions of the people that are, you know, ingesting it, whether they be old or young?
Yeah. Yeah, which is kind of a neat idea, actually. I like the idea of media growing with its original audience. Like it might be off-putting to like the way this media is now. I can't introduce it to my 4-year-old like I was introduced to, but I still think the idea of like it's grown up with me is a neat thing.
Yeah.
I lost my
No, concept. But
Yeah,
like
thank you.
especially with like Yu-Gi-Oh! Like after the original Yu-Gi-Oh, there have been 5,000 different iterations and types of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
not like they can't introduce it to children without having this kind of adult like undertone. And again, it's like a meme. It's not like they stuck these political views in an actual episode. Like
Yeah. And it was the creator. It's
Yeah.
not like someone bought the rights to Yu-Gi-Oh! And then used it for their own purposes. It
Yeah.
was the guy who created the characters on the show or the comic, and yeah. So, Sean, you've been very quiet.
No, I think you can. I think they're just mad because it was the creator that used it. I mean, any doofus could have taken the picture and slapped some words on it to say what he
fair.
wanted it to say.
Okay,
I think they're more mad because it was the creator.
that's interesting.
I do think that the internet has become very hyper vigilant of creators.
Yes.
I do feel like it falls more in the like indie scene because those creators are a little bit more reachable than someone that's like at Cartoon Network or like something like that. But I do agree with Sean in like that the internet definitely goes for creators when something is viewed as like wrong or immoral. And again, immortal. Wow. And again, like
Amy Lee. Yeah.
yeah, and again, like not saying because I don't know like the full extent of the issue that this creator was correct or that what he did was right, but I do feel like it is the current trend of the internet where if something is wrong in a media or a medium, whether that be animation or like music, to directly go for the like creator of that media, and hold them at a very high like black and white standard.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's actually, there was something else I was going to put on the list, but the headline was different than what I thought it was going to be. It was Kotaku talking about how social media has influenced Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they were mostly just talking about how like Watch Dogs 2 has themes of like social media and Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I thought it was going to talk about like people posting on social media had shaped the way the game had gone. Mm-hmm. Which I think kind of leads into like what you were saying. Creators are so much more accessible now.
Yeah.
Which in some ways is awesome. I've had some awesome creators on this show.
Yeah.
That I've contacted through social media, but in other ways it's awful because like Tom King gets death threats because of an issue of Batman he wrote. Like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Seriously?
They fucking subvert the idea of, oh yeah, they're gonna get married, and then all of a sudden it's, death threats galore to Tom King, the author.
Okay.
It's still going on. You can just chill out a little bit.
Yeah, okay, you're disappointed. Like, you don't need to threaten him and his wife.
Yeah.
I like Batman. It's not that important.
Well, and another good example, because I know that we were talking about it. So the artist for Snot Girl reblogged some art from a friend that ended up being like incest art between two of the characters from the Dante games.
Okay.
And like when she reblogged it, she had like no idea that that's what it was, and a lot of people like attacked her. They're like, how dare you do this? This is really triggering for people that had to deal with like cases of like their like XY like molesting them as children kind of thing. And she's like, hey, like I had no idea that's what this was. Like that's me like supporting my friend doesn't mean that I like support this, but like I didn't know. And this very like black and white, well, you supported this, so we're just gonna constantly like berate you for this thing in like this like very big like small box, and not allowing people to grow outside the box despite the fact that like even as like a 24-year-old woman, like who I was, maybe 6 years ago is much different than the person that I am now. And the opinions I had then are much different than the ones that I have now. Like allowing people that room to change and grow. And like, just because I make this one bad decision does not make me a bad person. People are allowed to like make mistakes, and the whole entire internet does not have to come for me and like tear down everything that I've built because I made like this singular mistake kind of thing. And I know that specifically with this like comment, like you were saying, that he apologized for his like political posts.
Yeah.
And again, going back, because like I know that that's the case, like not saying what he did was right or wrong, but this idea that like he apologized, but like how much of his apology is actually going to hold, because if people view what he did as wrong, it's very black and white. You are like wrong forever, and like 10 years from now, if he does something, even if it's good, people are going to be like, oh, but 10 years ago you like you made this post about like voting for president kind of thing. So well, it'd be interesting to know though, like I guess this might be getting into too much of the specific politics of it, what the specific issues are that caused him to post that. I would be interested to know about that. And I think that probably would, maybe it should or it shouldn't, but it probably would color my opinion of what he was posting about.
There's like 9 more bottles in there. Wait, you didn't get that from the stereo, did you?
No, it's okay.
Okay, good. Because the one by the stereo was in my car for like 6 days.
Yum.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna throw it away.
Delicious.
I'm still not over that bottle of wine, guys.
I
think
felt
about
my
it
heart
sometimes.
braked for you.
No,
Let's
I
tell-
think about
let's
sometimes
tell the
that there's
story
like
on
a
the
tear.
podcast.
Yeah, so podcast story time. We went wine tasting, and it was super duper fun.
And it lasted 9 hours.
Yeah, I drank all of these lads under a table.
Well,
You fell asleep.
yeah, because I drank so
Cole fell
much.
asleep.
Yeah, honestly,
And Cole's
the highlight of the evening though was that sangria that we had at the last place we went. If they had bottled
Yum.
that, I would have bought it.
So good.
Yeah, it was amazing, and I'm trying
Philip
to.
Carter Winery.
Yeah. I'm trying to find like extra like recipes for sangria to see if I can mimic it, but a lot of them have orange juice in it, and I'm sure that one did, but like I am kind of grossed out by the texture of orange juice in most drinks, if that makes sense.
Is it because of
Even
the
with no
pulp?
pulp?
Or
Yeah, even with no pulp. Like there's I don't know how to explain it, but there's a texture to orange juice that if you put a lot of it in a drink, I can tell like it's orange juice.
maybe it's
Okay.
the acidity.
Maybe. But that one didn't have it, and it was amazing. And so I've been looking at recipes. I haven't tried any of them out yet, but
So totally random. Do you drink mimosas?
I have not. No.
Oh, okay.
So, but most of the times,
so
if I
good.
see a like cocktail with orange juice in it, I will not drink it, just because it's almost like I know it's not chalky, but like the best way that I can explain the texture of orange juice to me is like chalky. Like it kind of covers the like texture of the rest of the drink, and I don't know if that's correct, but like that's how I feel. But previous to the sangria, and they didn't sell the sangria bottled, so that was like a no non-starter. But I had bought a bottle of wine. And then on my way up to my apartment that night, I had part of a cat tower, and the cat tower had this little like cubby hole in it. And so in my like big brain moment, I was like, I don't really want to make 2 trips, so I'm gonna stick the bottle of wine in this like cubby that has 2 holes in it. Oh. And otherwise, and to start, like, this would have worked if I had put the bottle in, like, head first, because it was in a, like, paper bag, but I put it in, like, with the butt of it on the back of this cubby, and so I picked up this cubby, and it just slid out of its paper bag and, like, shattered on the floor of my parking lot, and it was heartbreaking. So I didn't get to enjoy this bottle of wine after I bought it. It was like a $30 bottle of wine. It was beautiful. It was called Remembrance. I don't remember which.
From Blue Valley. Aaron knows.
Yeah, from Blue Valley Winery. It was delicious when we wine tasted it, but then I never got to enjoy it because it shattered on the ground. And I literally took a picture of it and sent it to the rest of the team, because I was like, this is how the world ends, really. And like, I knew, like, in the back of my head as I was sticking it in the cubby, I was like, this is gonna end badly. But like, I didn't listen to my, like, the back of my head, and as I picked it up, like, the bag stayed in place, but like, I felt as I lifted it, the bottle just slide out of the bag, and like, there was nothing I could do to stop what was happening. It was like slow-mo, and I just heard it shatter on the ground along with my dreams. And I made the joke to everybody that like and I didn't make the joke. I actually did like call my dad on the way home and be like, yeah, we went wine tasting, and I felt really adult and really cool. And then like I called him once I got up to my apartment with like the like paper bag of like glass shards, because I didn't want to leave them in the parking lot, and so I'd pick them up and put them in the bag. And I like called my dad, and I was like, I dropped the bottle of wine. Like, that was the first like grown-up thing I've done in a really long time, was like buy a bottle of wine. And I was annihilated, let's be honest. Like, that was heartbreaking.
You're like, Dad, I really fucked it up.
Yeah, the wine is gone.
I remember when I told you I had a good day wine tasting? I shattered it. I dropped it. It's gone.
Day was bad. I've changed my mind. But yeah, so that was my experience wine tasting. 10 out of 10 would do it again. Some really beautiful wineries in Manassas, and definitely would go back and buy that bottle of wine again. But would like,
you're gonna have to at this point.
Yeah.
Like, death grip, hold it to my chest as I walk it to my apartment this time.
And minor correction, none of them are in Manassas.
Oh, they're okay.
They're in Delaplane.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
That's okay.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Yes.
The Viticultural Association actually considers that area Middleburg.
Okay.
So all of those wineries, that's why like at mine it says like Middleburg on the bottle and not Delaplane. So that whole area, it's like how the Napa wines aren't actually like all in
Napa Valley.
Napa.
Oh,
Okay.
It's it's like the America Viticultural Association or something.
Yeah.
It does like regions differently.
Oh.
So they're technically Middleburg wines.
Okay.
Good to know.
I like loved all of those wines because my dad is very into those very dry, like you kind of cough a little bit when you drink them wines. And I really enjoyed the wines we tasted that day because they were all very like, not all very sweet, but not all of them were dry enough that you're like kind of like when you like sip them, right? Like, they're drier wines, but they're not like that dry. And my dad is very into those wines, and I appreciated that because I'm still very much in that category that I don't want my alcohol to like super taste like alcohol. And so those wines were very nice because they were fragrant and they were sweet and they were dry, but they weren't so dry that you were like, I think I'm dying. Like,
I'm eating chalk.
Yeah.
Or drinking chalk, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's why I bought like that Remembrance wine, because I think that was like, they were like, oh, this is a 15% sugar content or something like that. So it was a very, and probably I'm probably wrong. I'm probably forgetting. I'm probably very wrong. But they were like, it has a sugar content. Like, it was kind of close to a dessert wine.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I enjoyed it.
Remembrance was very sweet.
Yeah. It was very sweet, and I think that's where I'm at because, like I said, I'm still at that point where I don't want my alcohol to taste like alcohol.
Yeah.
But it still tasted really, really good.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's okay. You're good. I killed that bottle of Viognier the next day.
Yeah.
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 So that was fun. Yeah. Yeah. Where? Okay. Just checking levels. Yeah. So GameStop, they are redesigning stores to be like an experience now or something.
Okay.
Yeah. And like a lot of this, I guess they're going to try to like host esports tournaments now, and they're trying to. Some of the stores are going to be like for retro gaming.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they're going to sell old like Nintendo games or like maybe Nintendo classic consoles.
I know for a while they've been selling like iPads and like Samsung, like Android gear and that kind of thing.
So apparently they've gotten out of business with Spring Mobile. So they're no longer selling cell phones and cell phone plans.
Okay.
Which is good because whenever I see like a store selling an off-brand cell phone plan, I'm like, you're a scam. And it felt weird going into GameStop, like when they're trying to offer me shitty cell phone plans.
Yeah, but let's be real. Like GameStop, as much as I love the concept of GameStop, I'm gonna trade in this game from 20 years ago and get 50 cents for it. Still feels like a scam. Like
or like from 6 months ago and get 50 cents for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But if they start carrying like, if they start being like an actual secondhand store where you can buy like old Nintendo and Nintendo 64 games and PlayStation games, that might be pretty cool. Because I feel like nowadays most people kind of get their new AAA games like on the PSN store or like on Amazon or at Best Buy. And if GameStop can establish themselves as like, this is where you come to get that like PlayStation 1 game you wanted when you were 12 but didn't have the money for, that could, I think, revitalize them.
I think it will be very dependent on how much they're reimbursing the like contributors of those products. Because again, if they're like, if someone comes in with a bunch of like Nintendo 64 games and they're like, oh, we're going to give you like $5 for them, like somebody isn't going to like, as opposed to like I applied for that one position at a like a mom and pop like old video game store and they were giving people much more money. Like I think their like survival in terms of that will be very dependent on how much they're willing to pay creator or like providers for those things. And like I'm sure that they have some kind of tie-in that will allow them to get those games from like the producer of them, but a lot of those older games are going to be dependent on people wanting to trade them in. And if they're going to trade them in for prices that aren't competitive to what they can get on like eBay or like a mom and pop store, I don't think they're gonna do very well.
Well, they have to treat them like the retros or classics that they are. Like they can't just be like, this game is 20 years old, I'll give you a penny for it. It's like, okay, maybe if it's Bubsy. But like if you're giving me like if I'm trying to trade in like Clayman 63 and a third, like that's kind of a classic. I deserve more than a penny for that. Yeah.
What do you think, Celeste?
Very good input.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know too much about games in terms of like their trade-in value and whatnot. I'm not super familiar with that, but I do like the concept of the store switching to more an experience-based platform, just because at least I think for like millennials and whatnot, it's kind of like that's your focus. You want to go and do stuff, not necessarily buy stuff. I don't know.
So like as a kind of like base information, so GameStop has been notorious for under like paying people for trading in like video games and consoles and that kind of thing. Like you could trade in a bunch of like original Xbox games and get maybe like $5 tops. So like that's my hesitancy is like GameStop in my opinion has been notorious and again, in my opinion, not in necessarily maybe what is true of the general populace, but in my opinion, has been notorious for underpaying people that come in to like trade in games or systems and that kind of thing. And that is what keeps a lot of people away. Is like if I have an original Xbox system with like 5 original games, like I don't want to just get $5 to like, and like in-store credit too, not just like, oh, hey, I'm going to give you $5 to spend wherever you want. It's like, oh, well, $5 of GameStop credit. Like,
So then, also on the topic of games and like sort of their market value over time, like I guess just as someone who doesn't play games that often, like when something new comes out, do you think that the value of it automatically should be worth more, like because the technology's improved, the graphics are improved, obviously like the plot line can be more complex versus something from like Nintendo 64 where it's like very straight, you know, it's like kind of like, you know, you're working with what you got back then. So do you think like the people who actively look for those older consoles and games that they're like purely collectors or that?
So I think it's kind of dependent on the success of the game.
Okay.
I think that if you like trade a game in like 3 weeks from its original launch, it shouldn't lose any like price from what you originally bought it from, because like say at this point with the way that consoles work, save game files are at least for like consoles are dependent on the like specific console you're launching them on. So like if I were to play a game for 3 days and then trade it in, what the experience of someone that buys it is going to have is completely different because the saved game files are on my console and not on theirs.
Right.
So I don't think that should change. As an example, like when I was a kid, the big game that I used to play on the Xbox was Jet Set Radio Future.
Oh my God, yeah.
God, that was a game. And like, yeah, that's not like a super like, oh, everyone wants to have this, but I definitely think it's like a cult classic.
Okay.
And like that should be worth a decent amount of money because like like you can't just go out and buy Xbox anymore, and B, like you can't just go out and buy Jet Set Radio Future anymore. Like they have Jet Set Radio on the PC and stuff, but Jet Set Radio Future, yeah, no, it is. It like it's still kind of a neato burrito game, but it's not a game in the sense that like any new games are games. But there's definitely a niche there that it fills. But like, just because it's an Xbox game, I don't think I should only get like $5 for it, because I know there are like people out there that like love this game, and it is kind of a cult classic in its own way. Like, and that might be my own opinion because I played it, and I've met a lot of people that when you're like, oh yeah, Jet Set Radio Future, they're like, oh my God, I love that game. But it's not one of those games that like if you Google it, it's got like thousands of followers. Like I think it's worth a lot more than $5. But in GameStop's kind of mindset, from what I've seen, it's very much oh, this is an old console, but it's not like a Nintendo 64 kind of thing, that old. And oh, this is an old game, but it's not like people aren't putting it on eBay for like thousands of dollars, so therefore it's not worth that much money to me. And just because like those prices aren't the same, like you still originally, like when you bought that Xbox, it was like what, like maybe $200, the original Xbox prices.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and like the original game was maybe $30, but like a lot of people like that game. And so I think it's definitely worth more than like 2 or 3 cents, because sometimes depending on the game, like that's what GameStop tries to do to you. It's like, oh, we'll give you 60 cents for this one game. I think for me that's the crux, is like, for me GameStop has become synonymous with like underpaying you for like these like old games and that kind of thing. And I know that everything isn't a collectible and not everything is like loved by everyone. And like if I was trying to trade in like Shrek the Third game console, like give me 50 cents for this shit and send me on my way. But like for games that seem to, in general, in the populace, like when I was in college and like even now, like damn, like Jet Set Radio meant something to people. Like I would assume like a kind of steeper price kind of thing. So
well, and even GameStop has the issue of being like even with newer games, they don't give you a good price. Like I bought GTA 5 for like $60 when it came out, and I think we've talked about this on the show before, and like I got to one of the missions and it just made me sick. I'm like, I don't want to play this game anymore. This is abhorrent. And I returned it, and they gave me like $40 for it. I'm like, I just paid $60 for this 5 days ago, and like, so if they're gonna do that with like retro classics, they're gonna have a hard time, I think, moving product and getting product to sell.
Yeah, especially because already a lot of mom and pop stores have set the like precedent that like we're gonna pay you a lot for these games.
Oh yeah, nobody goes to GameStop for retro games.
No,
like they go to like Oogie or things like that. Yeah, or eBay. So I think it's an interesting Hill our battle to fight. I don't know if they're going to be successful with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Haunting of Hill House. Who here has seen Haunting of Hill House?
My shit.
Me.
There's a few people raising their
Celeste,
hands.
no?
Celeste is not.
Okay.
She doesn't like scary things.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, wait. But did you read the book?
I want to read the book, but I haven't. But I don't.
It's so good.
Yeah.
There's a book.
Has anyone else read the book?
No.
No?
So my
Okay.
original kind of introduction to The Haunting of Hill House is there was a movie originally made for it.
There've
with
been like
Liam
4
Neeson.
movies.
Yeah, the one I'm speaking of
Yeah.
specifically is the one with like Liam Neeson.
Oh, The
I
Haunting.
think it's called The Haunting.
Yeah.
And that was the one I watched. And ironically, like the first time I watched The Haunting at Hill House, I didn't realize that was like the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I watched it again with my boyfriend, and I was like, "Hey, wait a minute! This line is the same as the one as the Haunting."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, wait a minute! This person has the same name as the one in The Haunting." And then I like Googled it, and I was like, "Oh, this is based off the same book." And so I want to read the book, but I haven't yet. But that was kind of my first experience with that like media. So
The book is really good, and surprisingly, the original The Haunting with like Taye Diggs and Catherine Zeta-Jones is much closer to the book than
Yeah.
The Haunting of Hill House. Like,
Okay.
it's not a better movie,
Yeah.
but it's closer to the source material.
okay,
Yeah, but so yeah,
he's so hot.
It-
He's in the House on Haunted Hill too, and I'm just like, oh my god, yeah.
That's all I have for that.
you're good. I lost my place.
It's okay.
Haunting of Hill House Season 2 is
Yeah.
Haunting of Bly House,
Okay.
which is going to be based on the turning of the screw.
Okay.
But what I thought was interesting is they're bringing back some of the same actors to play different characters.
Oh,
so
kind of like.
an American Haunting.
Yes,
kind of
exactly.
thing.
Yeah.
Damn it,
Do you know? who?
Abby. Fuck.
The actress who played Nell,
Uh-huh.
and the actor who played I can't remember his name, but the drug addicted brother.
Luke.
Luke, yes. So them two are, at the very least, them two are coming back to play different characters.
Okay.
So I feel like they're trying to establish it as like an American Horror Story
Yeah.
thing, but I
That's
guess
cool.
based on more classic works
Literary
of
kind
horror
of-
literature. Yeah, and honestly, so something I found interesting was they were all based on fairly progressive works of horror literature. Like Haunting of Hill House was very progressive for its time, and so was Turning of the Screw.
Yeah.
So I'm interested if that's the niche they're trying to carve out for themselves, is like progressive horror.
Okay.
So
I think one of the things, honestly, that I liked about The Haunting of Hill House was not necessarily the actual horror, but how well it created and weaved these like familial bonds and ties and these relationships that felt really real and organic, and in a way like. Warning, pause here if you haven't watched The Haunting of Hill House and are planning to watch it. But like obviously it's about paranormal things and scary things, but I think it was a very interesting delve into how someone that's depressed and has this kind of family around them, and how despite having that very like cohesive family around them, how it can kind of fail them in their depression, despite the fact that at the end of the day, like what led to Nell's suicide was like these ghosts, how in real life that like depression can like affect a person. I thought that was really strong, and I thought the dynamics of like love and relationship between even like wife and husband and like sister and brother and all of that thing was like really successfully done in that series. And I'm excited to see how they like pull that over to their next series. I'm really glad that they're doing another one, because I thought that like The Haunting of Hill House was as so successful as it was. But I wonder how much they're leaning into those progressive kind of thematics and more like these very strong family ties, and like bonds between people. Because I think the chemistry and the bonds between family were what was really like strong and what stood out to me most in The Haunting of Hill House.
yeah, and I think too the original book was very much that as well. It was there was supernatural stuff, but it was mostly about how we're haunted by feelings of being the other and of not belonging and of feeling different and not being accepted by like society or family or friends, and that was that definitely came through in the Haunting of Hill House. And it's been a long time since I've read The Turning of the Screw, so I don't remember it as well, but I think there are similar themes of I can't figure out the right words, like feeling cast out by society or family,
feeling isolated kind of thing.
And how that can affect you. Like even if you have friends, it can be hard if you have depression or some sort of atypicalness.
I think
feel accepted.
I think the relationship that sticks out most to me is Nell and Theo.
Yes.
And like when Nell's husband dies and then Theo comes to visit, and Nell is very like hell-bent on finding a reason and an explanation for why her husband is gone, in such a way that she really alienates Theo. And it's really hard because Theo is really mad at her and she like feels separate from her. But like it's Nell's depression that is causing this isolation, and kind of that idea that like when people are depressed, they push people away. And they do things that like normally wouldn't be like reasons that people would stick around. And so Theo kind of, and not abandons her because I don't think that's appropriate, like, but like in a sense like, hey, like you've done something to wrong me and I'm not going to involve myself with you until you apologize, and how that kind of plays into what eventually ends up with her committing suicide. So I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, you're fine.
I'm really into the Haunting of Hill House because, like, again,
it was amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I like how in depth they go into this concept. I like those stories that are like you don't really understand what's happening until you get to the end. And then if you like rewatch it after you've gotten to the end, you see all these extra like, oh, like I didn't realize that was a thing, but that's a thing. And I really like that they like employed that in that story.
Well, and just from a like cinematography point of view, like the like super long takes where a character delivers like an entire monologue in a single take without any camera cuts. Was amazing. Like the two that stand out to me were the groundskeeper talking about his wife losing the child when they were in the basement, and the drive when Theo and I can't remember the oldest sister's name.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, when they're driving and it's just one long take.
Yeah.
And she's monologuing, and then like, and I mean, there's a jump scare at the end, but like that whole monologue is amazing because it's all one take. There's no cuts. It's so emotional.
Or the like,
there's so much good in that.
Yeah,
show.
or like the transitions between like currently what's happening and the past.
Yeah,
like they're so smooth that like the first time I watched it, I wasn't really paying attention. It was kind of background noise, and I got to the point where it stopped being background noise, and I wasn't really sure what was going on because of those transitions. And then you go back and you watch it, and you understand that this is from past to present or present to past, and you're like, oh.
Well, like one of my favorite episodes is the scene right after the funeral, or not the scene, the episode right after the funeral, where like the first 20 minutes of the episode is just one long take.
Yeah.
And it doesn't cut until the dad opens the door and it's like suddenly he's back in the old house, and there's like, cool, it doesn't cut until time changes.
Yeah.
There's a practical and a visual reason to cut. It's like fucking amazing. Like this is everything I wanted to do when I applied for film school. So I love that. I love that series so much.
Yeah.
It's really a slow burn too. Like
It
you got to
is.
get a couple
Super slow.
episodes in, and then you're like, "Oh, geez, this
Well, we
is
talked.
a lot."
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked about this before. I love slow burn movies. Like we talked about last time. I'm the pretty thing that lives in the house. Everyone I recommended it to was like, I fell asleep after 10 minutes because nothing happened. But like, I just love that movie. It's such a good character study.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. And really, like, nothing happens for an hour and a half.
Well, and
It's
even
so
when,
quiet.
even when it like kicks up, like if you really think about it, there's actually really not anything happening.
No.
Because a lot of it is so much like psychological in the actress like happening. but like it just ramps up in such a way that like it seems like there's stuff happening.
Yeah,
that, like,
she carried like the entire hour and a half movie basically by herself. Even like little tiny things, like when she's flipping through the TV channels, and what is her saying when she's trying to get the channels on the TV? But she has this like little rhyme that she says every time she clicks the TV channels, and just the way it's filmed and the way she delivers it, it's somehow like really interesting. It's
well, and I
it's
think
a really
she's
good
like one
movie.
of the only actresses. Like I think she's
There's
like,
like
the
three
only
people in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so totally different. So I want to talk about Marvel Zombies, only because Philip K. Johnson is writing it, and Philip K. Johnson is definitely a friend of the show and of mine and Tyke's. So like, that's really freaking awesome. He's like writing like Marvel comics now and hitting the big time. So I'm super happy for that dude. And I thought we could also maybe talk like Cole. Have you known much about like DC's like zombie?
No, I haven't followed
thing?
any of the like zombie offshoot stuff before.
Okay.
Very rarely do I ever read anything that's like hey, here's an Elseworld like zombie offshoot of it.
Okay.
I don't read a lot of Elseworlds anyways.
I have a bunch of issues of Deceased, but I haven't read any of them yet because I have way too much shit to read. But I think it's interesting that I guess DC and Marvel kind of always follow each other. Like either Marvel does something first, then DC does it, or vice versa. And now like DC introduced this series where all the superheroes are zombies, and now Marvel kind of has the same thing. So yeah.
For people that don't read comics, are they like zombies in the sense that they're like eating people, or are they still good guys but they're like undead? Like how does that work?
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
I probably should have read one before the podcast. But I think in Deceased they're kind of evil.
Okay.
So it's kind of like it's I think it's a Black Label comic.
Okay.
So it's meant for like 17 and above. And Marvel Zombies, I'm not sure. Maybe we'll have Phil come on the show and let us know.
All right.
But yeah, so I just wanted to mention that to give a shout out to Phil Johnson because he's a really good dude, and we've been having him on the show for a while, and I'm super happy for him to be writing for Marvel and DC now instead of his own, like just his own independent stuff. So continuing on comics, Alan Moore is fucking retiring after like 40 years writing comics. Yeah, right? Like Watchmen, a whole bunch of other shit that I can't remember right now. Aaron just asked me, who is Mikey Way, Aaron?
From My Chemical Romance, Gerard Way's brother. He was the cute
Wait.
one with the glasses.
Wait, didn't Gerard Way
has
did
some.
the Umbrella Academy?
Yeah.
Okay.
And now Mikey apparently released one with some dude.
Okay. What do you know anything about it other than he wrote it?
I
gotta
can
pee.
find out.
Can we hear Aaron on the microphones?
No.
Yes.
It's your mic now.
Cole is going pee, so Aaron's gonna replace him.
Yeah. And then after Cole, I'm gonna tag outside.
We'll take a break.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are back from a little
Siesta.
bathroom and refill the drink break. What is Sean doing?
Remember the vodka and pineapple? I thought that was a thing. I had
Okay.
all the wrong ingredients. It involves Midori.
Oh
and
no,
other
I
shit.
just put vodka and pineapple juice
Well,
together.
that's because you love pineapple.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
I need Midori and
I guess no
I
time.
don't
Malibu
have
rum.
I don't have
You have
Midori.
Malibu rum?
I don't have Malibu rum. No, definitely not.
Wow.
Is that like coconut?
What were you trying to make?
Yeah.
It's called pineapple crack.
Okay.
That's not family friendly, but
has a name.
I thought it was
Pineapple crack.
Nobody ever said this
Okay.
podcast was family friendly.
No, dude,
Okay.
I get like vaguely sloshed on every podcast. I don't think it's family
well,
friendly.
that's how you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we know it's good.
Yeah.
We will get very slosh when we do D&D. Because that's the only way I'm gonna like role play someone, not myself.
Yeah.
You're not a violent drunk, are you?
Oh God, no!
All right.
I make the joke that like, I make the joke that like I'm not very talkative, like in general. So like,
Just straight vodka?
so there's two
This
parts
is the
to
right
this.
raised eyebrow here.
I know, I
lady.
see that. So It's two parts.
Are you
So,
sure,
like,
bud?
A, I'm an affectionate drunk.
Okay.
But, like, only when my boyfriend is around, kind of affectionate drunk. And not like
In case he's listening,
yeah,
boyfriend.
not inappropriate, but like I want to like hug him and hold his hand and like kiss him a lot, kind of stuff. God, shut up, okay? Please leave me to die. But I'm also
Let's
like
call
a shut the fuck up. I'll end you. So like
You may strike him down,
Oh my
but he will only become more powerful.
Can we make this a plot point in the D&D?
God, please no. But I'm also like a talkative drunk, but I'm not very talkative like anyway, so it kind of just brings me to like normal levels of talkative when I'm drunk, at least in my opinion. But
Okay.
like that's a drunk
That's all that
person's
matters.
opinion.
I disagree. You're very talkative when you're drunk.
Yeah, but your
More than
opinion
a
is all
normal
that
person.
matters, though.
Nice. Okay, at least am I an obnoxious talkative
No,
drunk
no.
though? Okay,
No.
that's what counts.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
Nobody here
'cause
has
if
been
you-
obnoxious when they're drunk so far.
Yeah, if you tell me I'm obnoxious when I'm drunk, I'll just like sit here and like be quiet. So
No, not even Aaron. Even Aaron's not.
She
Maybe I
might want
haven't
to be,
seen.
though.
No, I've seen Aaron pretty drunk.
New Year's
I-
though.
No. Although I left at 3 a.m, so maybe later.
past 3 in the
Did you
morning.
miss the part where I was yelling at Alexa to play popping champagne? Like
Alexa.
No,
first,
I was.
like 30 seconds trying to open a bottle of champagne.
No,
and
I was there.
snap it.
No, I was there. You did that at my house when you were sober.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's just who I am
Listen.
as a person.
Yeah,
We're just putting the muddled into muddled dice.
absolutely.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, this is an awesome way to come back from the break.
Yeah.
What are we talking about now?
I don't know, let's get serious face.
It chapter 2. Who
It looks
is
good.
excited for it?
I'm super
positive
stoked.
Celeste is excited for it. Chapter 2.
No.
Well, it's required. Did you see the first one?
No.
Oh.
I'm super stoked.
I'm not sure how to feel. You should start with the TV one, though.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're scared of, you don't like scary things, start with the
The
TV
TV one
show.
is a lot
The
more
TV one
tame.
is- yeah,
It
very
scares little
scary.
kids, so
Yeah.
you might be.
Yeah.
I think
It's
I'm
the right
like at
sweet
the
spot.
level, like, below that. So I'm like,
It was
I'll
made for
give it a
TV.
shot. I'll give it a shot.
Have
Okay.
have they released a new trailer since the one that came out like a month and a half ago?
Yeah, Colt
Just today they did.
Oh.
Because
Yeah,
Comic Con started.
Okay, I haven't
and
seen that. So
The only
It's
thing I don't like
so
about it is it uses the what do you call it? Not Insidious. The Inception horns.
Okay.
Like, that's- yes.
Yeah.
That's so.
Overplayed.
Yeah.
I'm
but
really
the other music in the trailer is awesome.
yeah.
They still got the same guy playing the Pennywise,
Yes.
right?
I was telling Cole, Skarsgård is a fucking amazing Pennywise.
It
Yeah.
works
I
out
love
well. I don't see him when I see the clown.
No.
I'm really interested because like in a lot of like remakes of horror films, they kind of push like the acceptable, and I think we covered it in another podcast, but this
Yeah.
whole idea that like in Friday the 13th, so in the original film, the reason they set him on fire was because the kids accused him of molesting them,
Yeah.
but he actually didn't.
I think you
and
mean
then in
Friday
the
the 13th.
remake, Friday the 13th.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Sorry.
Nightmare on Elm Street. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But then in the newer one, it was like he actually did, and like he's coming back because he's just evil as shit. In the books by Stephen King, and it's gross, and I don't
Wait,
understand.
Stephen King did Nightmare on Elm Street?
No, he did It. I'm getting there.
Okay, my bad.
It's okay. So in the It book, and it's gross, and I don't understand why he did it, but he did it. The transition from when they are kids to when they are adults is an orgy.
Yep.
And it's really gross and really weird, and I'm not really sure why. And like he talks about how it's like
Yep.
symbolism of them growing from like children to adults, and I don't think they're gonna put that in the new film. But also like,
Well, they were already past that point, right? That was supposed
well,
to be
yeah,
when they were
they're,
kids.
so they're
Yeah.
gonna be adults in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
one.
Yeah.
But like I'm going to be very interested to see, because this is a newer iteration where like they can get away with some things. Like if that's like
Well, that orgy scene was never
I
going to
don't
make
think
it.
so.
Ever.
That's still like
yeah,
kid
it's
orgy
still
is
very
no,
yeah,
no.
no, and I completely agree, and it's very uncomfortable. But like,
it's very unnecessary.
yeah, I wonder like how much further they're going to push the horror
Yeah.
of them as adults, because even as in the TV version, like the one kid, and spoilers ahead for a remake, the one kid that as an adult kills himself because he would rather die
yeah.
than
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah.
Part of it is that he's gay.
Yeah.
And they don't really touch on that in the like first It, but I wonder now that we're like in a newer time and like that's more socially acceptable,
Yeah.
how much further they're going to expand on that theme.
That would be interesting. Yeah. Yeah, because in the original movie, it was just because he was smaller and he was afraid.
Yeah.
And that was the only reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
But other than that, like, I haven't seen the newer trailer, but the first one was really good. I think it built suspense really well, and I think it showed like a scene that wasn't present in the original TV series of the the version.
Yeah.
Which scene was that?
So with what is his name? The guy that was in Rocky
Horror Picture.
Yeah,
Oh, you
the guy.
mean,
Tim Curry. So yeah, it was
Wait,
like
he's in the new.
No, he's in the old one.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay,
in
yeah.
the
Like
old
the TV
one,
show,
yeah.
yeah.
There's never like at least to what I remember, like, so in the newer version, and I'm assuming in the book too, although I never read it. Beverly, like, her whole kind of crux of her
Okay.
character is that her dad is a creep.
To say the very, very, very least.
Yeah, to say the least. And in the original, from what I remember, like, that's all that's really touched on. And then obviously in the newer
It's
one,
hinted at.
yeah,
But
in the newer one, it seems a lot more like in your face.
Yeah.
And then in the previews for the It, like, part 2, like, she's returning to her childhood home.
Yeah.
And so I wonder how much they're going to push those kind of more adult themes in the new one, since they can kind of get away with more, since, like, I think viewers are a lot more desensitized to that kind of content.
And also, it's not coming out on TV.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they can do a hard R.
Yeah.
Because it's not coming out on ABC on Sundays.
Yeah.
So
I still miss Tim Curry though.
Tim Curry was amazing.
we talked about this before when the original It came out, when I had Corey Davis on the show, and we were saying, like, Tim Curry was a very different kind of Pennywise. Like,
Yeah.
he was kind of that, like, creepy cigar smoking hobo clown.
Yeah.
And, like,
They're the most dangerous. They're hungry.
and, like, maybe the uncle that you don't want to leave alone with your kids.
Yeah.
Where, like, Skarsgård to me feels like he's a puppy who doesn't know his strength.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Like, he feels like he's a kid who is, like, playing with other people but doesn't know that, like, oh fuck, I'm
like, has a knife.
Yeah.
And, like, doesn't know that, oh, this knife can hurt people.
yeah, he feels like innocently malicious,
Okay.
which I feel has changed a little bit in the trailer, because in the trailer for Chapter 2 he seems more evil.
Yeah.
Which maybe his whatever he is has grown.
Yeah.
But in Chapter 1 he felt like much more. Okay.
There was an
the thing-
innocence about
he
the
reminded
terror.
me kind of. Did anyone ever see The Bad Seed?
Yeah.
Yeah, he kind of reminded me of the character of The Bad Seed, where it's like he's a little kid who's fucking killing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's wrong and it's terrible, and to grown-ups that know that it's wrong, it's terribly wrong, but to him, he doesn't understand that, like...
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
can see that.
So, move on to. Okay, I'm gonna guess again. Everyone here, but maybe Celeste, has seen The Conjuring.
Yes.
Oh yeah, God, I love that
Okay,
movie.
Aaron hasn't seen it too. Good.
Ugh.
Scary things.
No,
That's
good.
okay.
I think we're split right down the middle.
Yeah.
Um,
That's okay that you don't like scary things. It's really okay.
I like scary real life things.
Yeah.
Wait.
What?
Like spooky places.
Oh, okay.
And I like reading spooky things.
Okay.
But I don't like spooky movies or shows.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So you read scary stories to tell in the dark, but you won't watch the
Oh.
movie?
Correct.
Okay.
All right.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I promise we'll get to something Celeste can talk about.
Celeste, what's the scariest thing just so I have a baseline?
Like, what's the scariest thing you've ever watched?
Just so I know.
Okay, well, this
Captain
isn't
Planet.
the scariest thing I've ever watched, but like, I know Deadpool's supposed to be funny, but like, man, I cringed. I cringed.
That's
scary.
fair.
Wait, that counts
No,
as scary?
that's fair. I think that's
just,
fair.
Like, the
I haven't
gore.
seen it.
The gore is
Gore.
fair. I think
Okay.
that's fair.
Wait a
It's
minute, you
very,
haven't seen
it's
Deadpool?
very gory.
You two know to
Zone.
go see Deadpool together or something. I don't know.
Yeah, like the Twilight
What about The
Zone.
Quiet Place? You've seen that.
Okay, I have seen The Quiet Place, and like, man.
Oh, so you made it through that. Okay.
I couldn't handle it. Like, so when the dad's like yelling and he's like, he's gonna save his kids. I'm like, oh man, the fucking monster's gonna get him, and like, yeah, I just.
So you can survive a scary movie because you know the rules.
Yeah, but like, oh. I don't like doing it. Like,
I think it's just that there's a certain sense of like normally people wouldn't do this, and like there's a terror in the sense that like I would hope that in this situation I wouldn't do this, but like these people are obviously doing it, so.
And it's just like the whole like, I don't know. It's just, I guess it's just because it's like things that happen outside of, you know, your normal life. So it's like, of course, like the reactions are like very bizarre and extreme, but it's just like, man, like I don't know what I'd do if like a fucking monster just came out of the woods and like ate me if I like stepped too loud on something. Like, holy shit. But like, yeah, I don't know.
So we're totally off topic. That's cool. So I know you're not a horror movie fan, but you like books. Are you a horror book fan? Do you have any?
See, like, I want to say that I am, but then also when it starts to get to the scary part, I totally close the book and I'm like,
Okay.
you know what? Let's just read the end. Let's see what happens.
So you're like Joey from Friends. Do you like close it and put it in the freezer?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What were we talking
But you
about?
know how
The
to...
Conjuring house.
The Conjuring house, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently, The Conjuring was based on like a quote-unquote true story.
Yeah.
The house that movie is based on has apparently been bought by a new owner, and he's opening it up for like public tours.
He's gonna die. He's dead.
Okay, so first of all, and I saved this for when we started the stream, or not the stream, the podcast, because we kind of were going over like this list very vaguely before we started the podcast, and then I like paused. First of all, in the Conjuring film, supposedly they like banished the demons, so the house is not haunted anymore. According to the film, anyway. Obviously, real life. But when I was a kid, my sorry, I have to read something really quick.
Important news.
This is very important.
Oh my god.
Oh man, did it? Wait, did you get to see the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I appreciate that.
That's good. That's good. So when I was a kid, the whole concept in the films holds very true that like every time they would come across kind of a haunted item, they would collect them. But at some point, they actually left all those items because the collection became too big, and so they left the collection to like a friend of the family, and he started his own museum. And so when I was a kid, everyone has one, like that person that you look up to kind of indefinitely. One second, I have to look at this meme again.
Wait, hold on.
Sorry, Aaron is sending around hilarious cat memes, so we're being distracted.
Boyle.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Anyway.
Conjuring.
Yeah, Conjuring. When I was a child, everyone has one, that like one person that you like look up to. You want to be when you grow up. My person was Lorraine Warren. And ironically, the day I got my call that said like I got the job was also the day she died.
So the day you got the call to
That I could start
work
my
with
job.
all of us and be coworkers with us crazy people.
Was the day she died.
Okay.
Which was heartbreaking. It was like I should be sad, but as a kid, and I know this is kind of morose, but as a kid you don't really understand, but my thought process was, I'm gonna die and I'm gonna haunt Lorraine Warren. Which is like very like
That's
macabre,
awesome.
but like that's who Lorraine Warren was to me as a kid. And there used to be like you could pay money and you could tour the now Museum of Haunted Items, and then you could have lunch with Lorraine Warren. And that was like on my bucket list, and I never got to do it because she died.
Yeah.
But like part of me is like, oh, it's really cool that you can tour this house. But the other part of me is like, the house isn't haunted anymore, or is supposed to not be haunted anymore. So like,
No, the
what is
new dude that bought it is definitely dead. Like every time you buy a haunted property and you're like, haha, it's haunted. No, you're dead.
Well,
you're gonna
so
die.
The interesting thing in that article is he says yeah, there's weird shit that goes on in the house, like doors open and close, cabinets, and like weird noises. Mm-hmm. But he said the worst thing that happens is living people breaking into the house. He's
Really?
like, people fucking do it all the time because like it's a famous haunted house.
Yeah.
He's like, He's like, yeah, there's weird haunted shit that might be haunted, but like living people are worse.
I guess that makes sense then, because now he's opening it for tours, so
Yeah.
hopefully cutting down on the number of people that try and break into his home.
Ideally.
Yeah.
I don't know if he bought it as a home or
As a like
museum
tourist
piece.
attraction. Yeah.
As he's like, I'm rich, I can fucking buy this.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys think that you would ever live in a home that was
Yes.
that like reportedly haunted?
The Remington house.
The Rem-
Oh,
really?
God.
Why?
Right off the bat. 'Cause
Why?
It's weird as shit.
So you want it because it's haunted?
Because of all the rooms and their crazy ass design.
The like
Okay.
doors that lead to nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's amazing. You can't get that anywhere else.
No, it's true.
I mean, you could just buy a townhouse with no deck.
One of those places that never put the deck on the door to kill you in case
Yeah.
you forget.
Yeah.
This is very off topic, but kind of in the vein because that house is in California. There's this other place in California that is a haunted house, is in like Halloween haunted house, and you actually have to sign a waiver, and you're there for like 4 or 5 hours, and the waiver
my God.
basically is like, well, actually more than that. I think like the longest report is like 12 hours. The waiver is that they can do anything that they want to you,
I've
and they
seen
can like
those.
tie you up and like get
Wait,
in
this
your
is-
fucking
No,
face,
What is
and
this?
like yeah,
There's a
yeah,
haunted house?
Yeah,
I
and
agree
people,
with
and not like a
Celeste.
haunted
Fuck
house,
no.
like an actual supernatural house, but
Yeah.
like a Halloween haunted house.
Okay,
And I'm
okay.
just thinking
Yeah,
about
no, okay.
it because it's in California. But the whole concept of it is you sign this waiver because basically for that time that you're in the house, you have signed away, and they can basically
Yeah.
pass like killing you.
Yeah.
Basically, you have signed away. They can do anything that they fucking want to you for
Nah,
the
fuck
time
that.
that you're in the
Fuck
house,
that.
right?
You're not
right.
signing up
But
for the
they're,
most
like,
dangerous
booked
game?
for like
I know,
5,
right?
but like
Yeah.
they're booked for like 5 years in advance, and I'm like, who is the
I don't
person?
understand who does that.
Right? Like,
Just get like a dominatrix. if
Right?
that's what you're
Right.
into.
Right?
Oh, that's a little sexy
Like-
at least.
Go to that place in Fairfax. Yeah. Yeah. I
There
mean,
you
like,
go.
Jesus.
What?
right? Like I
There's
watch.
something that's in Fairfax.
Right?
Dungeon?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't know. I live there. I never heard of this.
For anyone who can't obviously
didn't know
see
that
us,
wasn't common knowledge.
I'm wiggling my eyebrows at people suggestively.
Hello.
Like, are you sure about that? But I just thought about that because that like location is also in California, and like the
Right,
biggest
right.
thing that they do like in that signing that waiver is they can like tie you up and they can gag you and like.
Hot.
You're sure this
Nope.
is a dominatrix?
No, it's not. It's
This
like
is a horror thing and
and
not
they
like
only,
a.
no, and they only allow like
Horror,
up to
not- yeah.
I think to up to like 10 or 11 people at a time, specifically because there are these situations in which they like tie people up and
Yeah,
shit like
and like
that.
any more than that, and you wouldn't have room to like maneuver around and
Yeah.
get like
I-
really
yeah.
working into
Yeah.
it.
It's true. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't. I just thought that was
you
like
need
in
space
relative.
to like crawl. Yeah.
Oh my god. But I just thought about that, and that it honestly is kind of in the same vein. Like, who is the person that's going to sign up for like a haunted house like that, and B, like, not like, as long as they weren't violent ghosts, I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't be the person that's like, oh, this haunted house is haunted, I'm gonna buy it. But like, also, who's the type of person that goes in? There's a demonic haunting in which this woman murdered her children, and I'm just,
I mean-
I want this house. Like,
I wouldn't want that. But like, if there were ghosts that were like,
they're chill.
I'm cool.
The
Yeah.
chill ghosts.
We're gonna
Yeah,
hang.
yeah.
Like,
You have ghosts, but are
Yeah.
they chill?
you respect my space, I respect yours. It's like a
I would
fucking
totally-
spider.
I do that
like,
with bugs, not ghosts.
I would totally hang with Casper the Friendly Ghost.
yeah.
He's awesome. Yeah.
Casper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I think I could have a house where like there was like a known definite. Like I realize like most homes people have died in, but like if I was looking at a house and they were like, yeah, so there was a gruesome murder like
Yeah.
in your kitchen, I think that would be an automatic like
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
That's a no from me. Dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's this
I
level.
feel like if anything took bleach to clean up,
Yeah.
maybe
Probably. Yeah.
Like your dorm room.
Oh my god, please. Please, not on the podcast.
Now, the podcast has no idea.
No.
I think to a certain extent it's the level of surprise. Like I think I've told you guys the story of the old woman with dementia that like tried to break into our
Yes,
house.
yes.
Like before that, I probably would have been very okay with living in a haunted house because it's like it's haunted and you like walk into your kitchen and there's a bitch standing there and you're like, oh, it's just this ghost. What's
Oh,
up, homie?
hey, how's it
Like,
going,
how's it
ghosty?
going?
That would be kind of cool.
Yeah. after like that woman almost broke into our house and like that has left a very lasting impression on me, I don't think I would be comfortable living in a house where like, oh, you're just fucking in my living room, please no.
Maybe if the ghost cleans up. They like to move shit.
That would be
But do they, will they clean up?
Are you going to share half of the chore?
If you sham wow my kitchen, then you can stay.
Yeah.
Better bust that
Mom's in the
Swiffer out
corner,
there.
Ghost,
Yeah.
if you need it. Trash bags under the sink.
I pay the rent. This dude who died in 1940 pays the electricity.
Yeah.
I'm
That's
cool
a
with that.
nice roommate ghost you have.
Oh, fuck.
We had to pay a deposit on
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just never hear stories about that.
Yeah.
Because it was before Bank of America existed.
Exactly.
All right, so that's the last topic on our Trello. So let's move on to is anybody playing or watching or reading anything interesting this week?
No, but
Oh my god. Okay. This is a boring segment.
Yeah. I guess here I'm really excited about the new Fire Emblems game that's coming out
Yes.
on the Switch. I think it's called Three Houses.
Yep.
I'm really excited for that. It looks really good. They recently released another trailer. Excuse me. Another trailer for it that was actually the opening cutscene.
Okay.
That looked really interesting. Specifically because, and this is not a fucking spoiler because it's an opening trailer. But like very regularly the theme, and I've only played Fire Emblem since I think Awakening, so maybe I'm not like an overall expert in the series. But like there's always this one kind of character that's supposed to be kind of the embodiment of good and like purity and blah blah blah, and they end up like sacrificing themselves in some way, and it's usually like the blonde one with green eyes. And in like the opening trailer of this game, it's the blonde one with green eyes, and she like literally slaughters the shit out of this like enemy dude.
so you're like, oh, you're dead. Bye.
Well, so like I'm like, you're dead, but like
You're the final boss.
right, like I'm also, this is very out of character for this kind of like archetype that you have embedded in these last few games. So I'm interested to see how that changes the dichotomy of the games a lot.
Anyone else?
If anyone hasn't played Cadence of Hyrule yet, it's so fucking good. If you like cute little, indie games that somehow convinced Nintendo to give them their Legend of Zelda license, then Cadence of Hyrule
Is that really
free.
what happened? Like somebody
Fuck yeah,
indie game made it?
The
That's
dude,
awesome.
the dude that made Cryptid the Necrodancer, Nintendo straight up was like, you know what? Fine. Here's our Legend of Zelda IP. Go to town, and he made a good ass game from it.
Holy
That's
shit!
insane, because Nintendo, for like the past fucking forever, has been insanely protective of their
Well,
IP.
absolutely. Their
To
IPs
the
are their
point of, like-
lifeblood.
to the point of like sending DMCA's to live streamers.
To YouTube, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, you can't play Mario 64.
No, they
on
are
YouTube.
so protective of it, but
That's nuts.
this guy went on Twitter and was talking about how nervous he was because this is one of the first instances of them being like, you know what? Fine, go
Yeah.
ahead. And it kicked ass. It was so good.
That's
It's like you sit down and you spend an afternoon playing it and you're done. But holy fuck, is it good?
Yeah.
Like, I'd never played Cryptid the Necrodancer, but then I put this one on and I was like, okay, I can see how this, like, Cryptid the Necrodancer would be amazing. And
Yeah.
you'd want to give an IP to it because, goddamn, it was fun. So good. So good. Everyone play it. It's like $15.
Oh shit.
Nintendo. Go Nintendo.
Celeste? Reading, playing anything? No.
No,
No, you were.
You don't have to read like a
Celeste is
media,
gonna
like
read
a
Blackbird,
yeah.
which is an amazing comic.
It's got very nice art. I skimmed through it.
Amazing art.
Yeah.
No, what were you were telling me the other day about something justice, the like AI sci-fi book?
Ancillary Justice. So
Yeah.
basically, if AI was like our deity and was very much expanded and kind of like split into two minds, and then there's a whole civil war going on. So, yeah, apparently it's a very good fantasy read. I haven't read it yet, but
Well,
Wait, you said you were reading it.
She's gonna read
I'm
it.
gonna read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. It's on my list, but yeah, that's cool.
the
Yeah.
second Sandman omnibus came in the mail today. Haven't read it yet, so, but
Man is amazing.
in the same vein, haven't read it, but very excited.
Yeah.
You should be. Sandman is amazing.
Yeah, it was $60 on Amazon. Yippee.
For like 16.
It was like 30% off. Yeah, it was like the whole like second leather-bound omnibus thing. It was crazy. That was the one Prime Day deal I did.
Wow, across the picket line.
Yeah, I was like, you know what, Prime Day can suck it, but this is okay. The $30 off on this super big book is fine.
Have you read the new Sandman?
No.
Don't.
Well, I know.
I'm sorry, but don't.
I know Neil Gaiman
It
is.
loses so much without Neil Gaiman.
I know that there's a Sandman show coming out on Netflix, and Neil Gaiman is directly involved.
Yes.
So I'm cautiously optimistic
Just
about
like
it.
the Good Omen show.
Yeah. I'm super excited because it seems like they're like, you know what, dude, like you made it. Like what should this be? But at the same time, there's always going to be that element of like, you know, this isn't cool. We don't want this crazy like God sitting in our show.
I don't know.
It's too abstract, but I'm hoping it works
the
out.
American God show got really fucking weird, as it should have, because the book did too.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that.
I have,
I
I have high hopes with anything Neil Gaiman is directly involved in.
That series that Tyke showed
he did
me.
the translation for Princess Mononoke.
Oh, really?
Which was amazing.
Oh, fuck.
And like most dubs
like
are
the
terrible.
manga or the movie?
The movie.
Oh,
The
gotcha,
movie.
gotcha.
Directly translated. He did the translation from Japanese to English.
Yep.
And so like it wasn't just a direct translation. He's like, I'm a writer. I'm gonna actually, it was fucking amazing.
My buddy has the full like big ass book of Princess Mononoke, the manga, just chilling out in his apartment, and I should have read it before we moved out because now I'm sad.
Slightly derailing, but speaking of translations, so Netflix did I don't really know what you would call it, but they redid Neon Genesis Evangelion or Evangeline, whatever.
They finally got it on their service.
Yeah.
Did you turn the light off?
But in
Should I not have?
No, you should. It's motion activated.
Press the button, Sean.
sorry, pause.
Yeah.
Sean.
You're good.
But part of them doing that is they actually redubbed the series and not using the original dub.
And people are pissed, right?
So
Because
people
they
are
changed
pissed
stuff.
Because, and specifically what a lot of people on the internet are pissed about is, and I've never seen Neon Genesis, but there are two characters. It's the main character and the little white-haired boy, and they're gay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just say it. They're gay. In the original one, they're gay. And in the and there's like this scene in which the white-haired boy like tells the main character he loves him, basically. And in the Netflix translation, instead of that being "I love you" kind of thing,
like,
the white-haired boy says, "You're worthy of my grace."
It's like we're best friends kind of
Yeah,
deal.
yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like
And so, like,
typical like censoring.
It's
Like we're
it's
best
like
buds.
with Sailor Moon, because like if anyone
Yeah.
doesn't know that, like in the
Yeah.
original
Sailor
Sailor
Moon
Moon,
was the exact
there's
same,
those
yeah.
two, like I don't remember which sailor planets they're from, but the like short-haired blonde one and the like teal-haired one, they're gay as fuck.
Saturn
but in-
and Uranus.
Yeah,
Mercury.
in the like translated version, Neptune.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good
In the
shit.
translated version, they're cousins.
Yeah.
They're not gay. They're cousins.
No.
So it was very much like
yeah.
pulling that kind of thing. And so a lot of people are pissed off with it, and they made a lot of memes about it, like putting other animes and like where like the two main characters confess their love to each other, that then like mocking the like dubs, and they're like, "You're worthy of my grace" kind of thing. So I know a lot of like that's in talking about dubs, that's one thing that's like it's not as big because that happened like a week ago, but a lot of people were really disappointed when Netflix picked it up because they recast the voice actors.
But
And
it's
a lot of
nuts. It doesn't make any sense. Like
No.
they exist already. Just put them on your platform. You don't
Yeah.
have to redub it. And Ugh.
Well, and a lot of like even the original
stupid.
like
It
dub actors like put stuff on their Twitter about how strongly they felt about the original anime and their like original work, and then Netflix like replaced them, and then on top of replacing them like very
so
like
shitty.
PG-13'd
That's-
this and like
But why on Netflix? Like,
Right?
Okay, like if
Out of all the
if
things
it's
to,
like
like-
cable TV, maybe I can see it.
yeah.
But like, it's Netflix.
Yeah, and Netflix
Why?
has like never shied away from like R-rated content.
Yeah.
So what's the point of just like redoing it?
Yeah.
Also,
Microphone.
also, like gay
You're right.
and like homosexuality should not be considered an R-rated like content.
That
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
like
I mean,
like it. That's just like a relationship. It's not R-rated content.
Right.
It's not
Yeah.
like
Well, and a lot of people have like
sexing.
made the argument that based on the original translation, like this is truer to the original, like what the translation of the Japanese to the English would be. But if the original like subbed version of this was like, oh, they're gay, why would you not keep it? Like you said, it seems so weird because like using House on Haunted Hill as an example, Theo is gay as fuck.
Oh yeah.
Like I love her.
Well, in
In the pilot, they like make that very clear.
yeah.
In the the entirety of the original book is basically about Nell, who is like the book is like a totally different dynamic in terms of relationships, but the entirety of the original book is basically about Nell coming to terms not well with her sexuality.
Yeah.
So
like it's very weird that like out of all the people that I would expect to like censor like homosexuality,
What?
it's Netflix.
Yeah.
Homosexual.
You know what I mean? Homosexuality. Like out of all the people that would, it's Netflix. And
Yeah.
like specifically in like I could almost see it in something that doesn't already have like a media iteration of it, but like this was already a dubbed anime.
it's done.
That
Just like
existed.
upload it to your servers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's weird.
Wah.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
So I have been continuing to play Beat Saber,
Uh-huh.
and apparently there's a new Imagine Dragons song on it, which is awesome.
I gotta buy that new $1,000 Steam, whatever it's called, VR system.
Oh, the Index.
Fucking crazy ass.
Just buy a PSVR. It's like $600.
Yeah.
500.
It's got to be way more worth it because then I can play
It's
Resident
cheaper than,
Evil
like,
on it.
Yeah.
But that new one, it's so fancy, it's so new. It's got cameras on each side of it. You look like a bug while you're wearing it.
Houses.
Yeah.
But the other thing I've been playing is oh shit, I totally forgot the name now. Edith.
What Remains of Edith Finch.
What Remains of Edith Finch?
Yeah, I got a
which
BAFTA.
I'm only like maybe 40 minutes into it, but it's awesome. So like the premise is like your character kind of grew up in this house when she was a kid, and then something happened where like one night like everyone like in a hurry left the house. So you go back to this house in the woods with like it's this really weird house. It's like really tall and skinny, and like all of your shit is still in there. Like there's still serving set for dinner, and there's books on the shelves and toys on the floor because like everyone just left in a hurry.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going through the house, like figuring out what kind of piecing together what happened that night and trying to make sense of it. And you do it in this weird way where like you look through keyholes, and then you become like your great aunt.
Jesus.
Who lived in this house when she was 12, and then now you're her going through this house and like
Is this
experiencing things. It's a walking simulator.
I was about to say, is this very kind of in the same vein as like the disappearance of Ethan Carter kind of thing?
Yes, and I just if anyone's listened to the podcast in the past, they know I love walking simulators. The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Soma, all those. I love those kind of games. So. Yeah, Edith Finch is really hitting it for me, and I'm loving it.
So this is kind of detached from Edith Finch. Not quite the same kind of genre, but please, for the love of God, everyone play The Beginner's Guide by
my God, yes.
Davey Redden.
Yes.
It's the same guy that did the Stanley Parable, but The Beginner's
amazing.
Guide is more like a introspective. It's almost like a diary of his life.
Yeah.
And it's like a 2-hour playthrough, but holy shit, is it amazing. He goes through his life and like his experiences using game development as like an output for his like emotions and all this shit, and he narrates this game as you're playing it. God damn, it's an experience.
Well,
it's insane.
Like, it's like a series of mini games, but each mini game is like his outlet.
Yeah,
for
he
some experience
like
or emotion he has.
He like has you play each demo of something he made for when he was having a event in his life. He was like, this was happening in my life. I made this demo. That's what you're playing now, but I'm going to tell you the story behind it as you're playing it. It's insane. It's so cool.
Fantastic.
That reminds me very vaguely, and this is kind of delving more into kind of super, like, adult literature, I guess. But if anyone has ever heard of The Lovely Bones, then the author actually wrote that book while she was writing a almost like autobiography because she was raped. Very very rated R kind of content, but she was writing a book about like her experience being assaulted, and The Lovely Bones was like almost like I need to take a break from this book, so I'm going to write this one in the interim of like finishing this other book. And so like obviously The Lovely Bones wasn't like directly tied into her experience, but was kind of her release through that like process.
I feel like we've talked about this before. Games are getting to the point where they can address rough topics like that. Like, like the Beginner's Guide talks a lot about like depression, and the guy who did Thomas Was Alone. I can't think of the game. Isaac, the beginning of Isaac.
Yeah.
A lot of his early games were very personal projects that were based on his depression and his feelings of like inadequacy. And then even like Untold Stories is all about alcoholism and like accidentally killing someone because of your alcoholism.
Well,
Untold Stories is a rough game. It's amazing, but it's rough. But yeah, I feel like games are getting to the point where they can. Well, we talked about they can tell uncomfortable stories, and they don't have to be fun. I wouldn't describe Untold Stories as fun. It's extremely uncomfortable at times, but it's an amazing experience, and I'm glad I played it. Sean, if you you been playing or reading or watching anything interesting?
Playing anything? No. I watched I Am Mother and the Homecoming series.
Ooh, how was I Am Mother?
Good, actually.
Okay.
It's got the twist that you kind of feel you need from the get-go.
Okay.
And it's good, straight up to the end.
Did you pour yourself anything?
yeah,
It's like a
It
snort.
looked like
He's just gonna.
Dribbled out.
he just like did a wash of
Like-
of
Just-
the yeah.
Just enough to smell.
Speaking of watching,
Oh my
because I
God.
was thinking primarily playing.
That's a
I have
lot.
not started watching it yet, but there is a Hulu series that I'm very interested in. And
no.
in a lot of the Stephen
Yes,
King
okay.
novels,
but it's a lot.
he like references a
Are you talking
specific
about
town.
Castle Rock?
It
I
probably
grew
is
up in Castle Rock.
Did you grow up in
Wait, that's a real place?
Castle Rock,
Oh,
Colorado.
they exist.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
two different
no.
places.
different places?
I
Like it
gave
is
some guy
Castle
crap
Rock, but
about that
different place.
online. I was like,
Yeah.
there's only one
Wah, wah.
Crown's Castle Rock.
Yeah. So in a lot of the Stephen King novels, he references Castle Rock, and it's a lot of places, like a lot of times where the like
Good choice, Cole.
nucleus of his stories happen. There is.
Bitch for.
I am
a sniff.
very drunk,
Just
and I have
get
to
the
drive home.
aroma.
I can drive you home if I need to.
I want to make dinner now.
Oh my god.
We can make dinner while we're talking about D&D.
Yeah. But so Hulu just and Hulu has been very hit or miss for me in terms of their like series and their movies. In a lot of ways, they feel kind of forced in comparison to like Netflix success in the series that I've watched. But they recently came out with this series called Castle Rock, and the whole concept of it is that Stephen King references Castle Rock in a bunch of his novels, and in some way they are like tied into it, or they are where events happen. And so Castle Rock as the TV series is Castle Rock as it exists in Stephen King's novels, and it is not directly related to any of the events that happen in his books, but like some of the characters like peek their heads in, but it is its own standalone series, and I haven't started watching it yet, but I think that's really interesting that like what kind of causes an author to like always come back to this spot. Like, what about Castle Rock is significant to Stephen King? But also this idea that they've taken the fact that he's referenced it so many times and made it kind of an entity of its own seems really cool.
Did Stephen King grow up in New England?
I have no
He
idea.
must have.
I think he did.
Yeah,
And I've,
isn't his house in like Maine or Vermont or something?
yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, because I've heard like someone say before, like New England is like the scariest place in America because like
Huh.
so many Stephen King stories take place there,
Yeah.
and like all of H.P. Lovecraft, like if it doesn't take place in New England, it takes place in Egypt because he was kind of a racist.
Do you think it's maybe because at the time of them writing, like that was a very like central hub of like
Could
life?
be. Yeah, well, and it's still also, I think, because just New England was like maybe because it was one of the first places settled by the English.
Yeah.
Kind of has that like it's half unexplored forest and half urbanization. So it has that like borderline between nature and I just totally lost my words. Development, I guess, which has kind of always been an area of exploration for horror stories and fiction in general. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of like The Witch. You know,
Yeah.
where they're like, we're colonists, but then there's a witch in these deep, dark woods, and so.
The Witch was a great movie. Everyone should watch
I
it.
didn't really like it that much.
I haven't seen
What
it.
the hell?
I have the
There's-
Blu-ray
I
and I
Get
haven't
in
seen
touch
it.
with VVH.
So
The
like,
Witch.
like
I
A,
love
it
the,
was really
the sound design on the trailer was amazing.
like conceptually it's really interesting, but there's just something for me about this like concept of, I'm gonna spoil it, plug your ears if you haven't
That's fine.
seen it, but like basically the concept is this, like this girl, she's innocent, like she's not doing shit,
Well,
and like
by the end, when you're like, wait, it really was the goat, you just feel like,
it's
what?
the ghost, and there's like these constant terrible things happening despite this
Yeah.
like her attempting to be good.
she's just trying to protect her family, and
Yeah.
it just keeps happening over and over and over
So
again.
that kind of bugs me. This sense of like I'm trying so hard to be good, and I'm not actually doing anything wrong. But the forces
Yeah.
that be are continuously working against me
Right.
to make horrible things happen. Like, is not my cup of tea. But like conceptually, I think also it's like
You good now?
at the very beginning, like her baby,
The
like
acting.
cousin or like her baby sibling dies. That's very like to me.
And
like,
they show like 10 seconds of a witch just like taking the baby
well,
away
and she's
like
naked
eating it.
she's naked
She
and
like,
like
grinds
bloody
the baby
and, like,
up into like
Yeah.
soup.
yeah, and that's
Yeah.
very gross to me. I'm not again
Well,
like
sorry, go on.
no, it's okay. Again, going back to I'm not very in like I love ghost horror. I am very not into like gore and like physical violence and like gruesomeness, and that one
Right.
kind of leans into that a little bit.
So I saw an interview with David Eggers,
Mm-hmm.
who directed, and his whole thing was like the purpose of that scene was he wanted to convey that like people in these times were like literally deathly afraid of it,
Yeah.
of witches, like because they thought they were actual. they
Well, it
actually
was
existed.
either like farm and survive or die for literally any reason.
yeah, he
And
wanted
so
to-
then
he
it gets
wanted to-
easier to believe like, oh, we're dying because of witches instead
Yeah.
of like our crops are failing.
Well, and he wanted to convey the like actual terror, and not like, oh, this is a witch. It's funny, like Bewitched or like
Yeah.
the Disney movie.
Yeah.
Um,
Dude, anytime there's like gore mixed with like a crazy old naked lady, I've checked out. Like crazy old
That's
naked
fair.
lady, like is my I'm out of here
looked that
because
up.
that's so terrifying to me. And like again, I'll probably have to live with this my entire life, which like sounds really bad, but like really isn't that bad. But especially with that old lady with dementia thing that happened, there's
Okay.
this extra level of terror with crazy
Right.
old lady.
Old women
like,
are scary.
yeah, like crazy old like especially naked women. Like, why are you naked? Like, why is this a thing? Like,
Well, another thing, so like I read something a while back that like I used to think like witches, like, oh, that's a neat like concept, you know, for a horror story. And then someone I read something somewhere where someone was like they were pitching an idea of like, oh, what about like the Salem witch trials, but what if they were real? And someone was like,
As if they
someone
weren't
was like-
real?
no, but like what if they were right?
actually,
Oh,
witches.
And
like
someone
they
was
were
like,
real
okay,
witches.
Well, so maybe a good analogy is like, what about the Holocaust? But what if Hitler was right? It's like,
What?
Oh,
no, that's
Yeah.
not quite right.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah.
Hitler's whole deal wasn't about like
Maybe.
supernatural evils. It was like
but I mean, the witch trials were about like punishing women for
Something that
For
wasn't
being
understood.
right.
unnormal, yeah, non-normal,
punishing
behavior.
women for existing.
So it's like, like, that's not.
I was that kid that was really into like, and I've outgrown it. And y'all can think I'm a weirdo, and that's fine. But I was definitely that kid that was very into paranormal, like Salem
Nerd.
witch trials, and like
Just
serial
kidding.
killers.
Right.
And I know that like is a very like, oh, that's a creepy person kind of thing. But I've definitely outgrown it. But like, it's so interesting to read the stories about the Salem witch trials and like the theories of what actually was happening.
Right.
And like like I think one of the biggest kind of overarching theories as of right now that people kind of accept is there was a mold in the bread that caused the girls to have
Really?
Really?
that there was some type of mold in the specific type of bread that they were eating that was causing the symptoms of the girls, and then
Okay.
they were blaming these women.
It's like an 18th century Twinkie defense.
Well, and it's like a real mold that exists, and it doesn't obviously kind of exist in the bread we eat today because there are a lot of health regulations.
Yeah.
But it was a flavorless mold that would cause the it's specifically in rye, I think, that would cause the symptoms that they had and explain their the convulsing and the visions and all that shit. But they just blamed the women because it was these were women that were easy targets
Right.
in one way or another. Which I think is really interesting, and kind of goes back to what you're saying in this concept of I guess it would be cool if they were actually witches, but at the end of the day, what really happened there were these really innocent women
You were
that
persecuting
were
innocent people.
were caught up by this mob
Yeah.
mentality, and terrible things were done to them.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the reasons that in a way that witches in that time and stories of witches in that time are scary is because we have this understanding that magic isn't real. And that kind of very dark magic where you kill babies and you dance naked in the moonlight is this very wild and brutal thing that we accept as not real. So to have it presented as real is a scary thing.
Exactly. I do that every Tuesday, and I don't get any magic powers.
You dance
Which part?
naked in the
Yeah, which
moonlight?
part?
Yeah, what the
Okay.
fuck? If I dance around naked in the moonlight, nothing ever happens to me. So,
Cole just gets better at programming when he does it.
yeah,
Weird.
fucking Action Script 3 just comes through me when I dance in the moonlight.
Yeah.
Where's my magic powers? I want to float off ominously into the sky like they
I
do
wanna
in that
live
movie.
deliciously, is that what they say?
Yummy. So where's my spectral powers, huh? I dance naked every Tuesday night and nothing happens. My cat just meows at me funny, and I get weird looks from my neighbors.
You're not supposed to have your windows open when you do it. That's
Oh no,
That cancels the magic.
I leave my apartment. I go out onto the communal lawn, and I'm like, it's yoga. Leave me alone.
Cole, that's why no one's at the gym when you go there.
Oh shit! I should have thought of that. Maybe if I put on pants, people will go to the gym with me.
probably. I would think so. Although, thanks for the tip on how to get better at programming.
Yeah.
Hey, if you ever want to expand your action script skills, Tuesday night dancing, naked in the moonlight.
It's a good thing ActionScript is a dying language.
Yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise you might see more people out in the moonlight.
So what do you do to get better at C#?
You drink rabbit blood.
Oh, okay.
That's not as fun as dancing
You
naked in
you
the
watch
moonlight.
you watch
just
the
sounds gross.
you watch
Yeah.
The Witch on Netflix. You pay her $15 a month to get HD, and then you do the dance and drink the rabbit blood.
Okay,
But if
okay.
you can't find real rabbits, you can go to Harris Teeter and find substitutes.
Okay.
Harris Teeter has everything.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
I would have thought PetSmarters.
PetSmart, they're like, oh well, your pet rabbit died. Sorry, we're gonna milk it.
I'm surprised it's still open.
Sir, you've been here 4 times this week.
We're not giving
I
you
don't
any
know what's
more
happening.
rabbits.
It's like, where are you getting your rabbits from?
This isn't working. I don't understand. I haven't been promoted in months.
I went on a rant in the car. I picked up Celeste from her place, and I went on a rant on the car ride over here about completely off topic, about the probability of all of us being here. Because when you really think about it, it's crazy. None of us should exist.
You're
Because
right. You're actually right.
because the sheer probability of our common ancestor, like monkey number 1 or whatever, existing is 1 out of a million.
Yeah.
And then you consider that one ancestor breeding, and then all of our family trees start.
Well,
Great,
and even,
whatever.
Even our parents coming together
Exactly.
at that perfect time.
So you jump ahead of fucking 100 generations, and you're like, what are the odds that your great grandparents, out of billions of people, they found each other, met up, got married, decided to have kids, and then you were the one little spermie that survived and conquered the rest? That's like a 1 out of a billion, and you're the winner, and that probability keeps compounding.
Yeah.
So the fact that we're all here is like one out of infinity.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why love is incredible.
And that's why everyone should count their blessings every day, because technically
That's why it saved the day in Interstellar.
every against all odds you shouldn't exist, listener, and fucking you should feel good that you do, because goddamn the universe was working against you. Good
And
night.
remember, this
I'm here all week.
conversation happened before he was started drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do have work tomorrow.
yeah.
I hope Marty's not coming in.
All right.
See ya.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Aaron is leaving.
Yeah. No more commentary on that, guys.
It was fantastic. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll see you all
See you.
soon.
See ya.
The hot guys was the best part.
You're right.
Thank you.
All right. So should we end the podcast on that note?
Yeah, I mean, if
All
we
right.
if we wanted to keep it rolling when we talk about D&D stuff, if you wanted to like add it in, we could.
No, let's roll
Or
our
if we just
characters
went-
off tape.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
gonna be so boring.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Well, that was the podcast for what the fuck is the date today? July 18th, 2019. Thanks everyone for coming. It's been awesome. And if you like the podcast, please consider donating to anything in the description. Good night, everyone.
I've been
We'll say good night. Peace.
good night. I've
Good
been
night.
Cole Mueller, and this is Sperm Talk 2019.
Oh,
good night,
God.
everyone.
Oh my God.
He's only had like 2 drinks.
Cole is the
That's all it
reason we will
takes.
never be we will never be monetized.
YouTube
This is,
says no.
This has been Muddled Dice, and it's called Muddled Dice for a reason.
Muddled
Yes,
Dice,
yes.
parentheses, Sperm Talk 2019, end parentheses. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Linux is awful.
And Linux is terrible.